Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we've got play-up props here on a Tuesday with 3 games to choose from after a massive MLK Day slate. Hope you guys enjoyed the day off across the country. We are going to be, like I said, looking at play-up props. We also have best bets. We're bringing you both these videos each and every weekday this season, so continue to follow along. Also want you to head to thelines.com and use everything that we have up on the site right now, including that player props finder tool, right? Odds finder tool up there. Make sure you're getting the best juice on all these bets and play-up props that you are making in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get right into your first pick from one of these 3 games.
Yeah, I'll take De'Aaron Fox over 32.5 points and assists. I thought the 27.5 points was kind of low, considering, he is sort of a one guard going up against 3 elite scorers now that the Suns have their big 3 intact, and I can trust that the Kings are going to lean on him a lot more in this matchup to match points now that the Suns have their big 3 intact, 120 a game in 4 games, but also a 120 defensive rating, allowing the 5th highest 3-point shooting and 9th most assists per game. They're also bottom 10 in fast break points and points off turnovers allowed. So that should allow Fox to get some points out here in transition. When he's in the half court, though, he's obviously going to be relied upon a ton to facilitate, especially because Sabonis has not been very good in his career against Jusuf Nurkic. Better in his last 2, not getting bullied as much, but I mean, his career only 10 points per game on 19% usage for Sabonis against the big European Suns in their last 15, because they don't necessarily have a point guard and because they have Grayson Allen out there sometimes guarding the position, allowing the 2nd most points and 4th most assists to the position. De'Aaron had 34 and 7 his last trip to Phoenix, and that was with just Booker playing out of the big 3. The Kings, handled them with Book and KD playing at home, but this is a different situation when they're on the road, usually a closer game, usually not a blowout loss in division is what I'm looking at. Like, they've been blown out twice by the Clippers, some of them in kind of scheduled losses on back-to-backs, but otherwise every division game for the Kings has been within single digits if it is a loss. And Fox in 8 division games, averaging 30.5 points, 5.5 assists, good splits, and 33% usage, which is elevated in 8 road games since playing in Phoenix. He also has better shooting splits. And Keegan Murray is questionable. If he does sit, Fox is averaging 33 points, 7 assists in his only 4 without him this season, and those were all in pretty tough matchups.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I've gotten burned by D Fox a couple times, but this should be a good matchup for him. I do like an under, so I'll start with an under in my player props. Like in that game, I like an under, so I'm going with Booker under assists, under 7.5. I thought I might like take the rebounds as well, but they're so low at 4.5, and I still think that's a pretty good number for Booker, considering the Kings allow the most rebounds per game to point guards, whatever that means. I don't always put the most stock in like point guard rebounds or center assists, right, outside of like Joker or whatever, Domas, but like this, it still scares you enough. Booker could get in there and mess around with the boards, but the assists, it's interesting. The Bradley Beal impact so far in the 12 games that he's played with the big 3, well, or at least with Booker and like 10 of them with KD, the assists go down for Booker, even though he I don't know, maybe Vogel wasn't lying at the very beginning of the season in the summer where he was like, Bradley Beal's our point guard. And everybody was like, no, he isn't. No matter what you do with the lineup card, your point guard is Devin Booker. And I would argue KD's your point guard number 2 before you even get to Beal. But at any rate, like, it still is the impact that it's had on Devin Booker, is that his assists are at about 7 a game with Brad Beal in there and 8 a game with him not in there. He's gone over this number only 4 times in the 12 games that he's played with Brad Beal. I don't know that Brad Beal is necessarily taking away like his assists because he's getting them. He's certainly not. In fact, Brad Beal is stealing rebounds more than he is assists from Booker. Booker's rebounds go down a couple without Booker because of the fact that without Beal, you get what I'm saying. His rebounds go down when Beal's in there because Beal is getting a lot of boards. But the assists, not necessarily going to Beal, they're just not. The ball movement seems to be a lot different. Obviously, the spacing on the court is a lot different. There's a decent amount of pick and roll still being run with Nurk because, like I told you, Nurk has been out there a lot more with Bradley Beal. But Nurk's not only running that pick and roll with Devin Booker, he's running it almost as frequently with Brad Beal and with KD. So like some form of pick and roll with those guys and space after that, right? And other guys around the perimeter is sort of their go-to. But like I said, there's just not quite the same amount of assist potential when Beal is out there. There's a bit more 1-on-1. The assist percentage with Brad Beal on off, I just looked at his. It's not the most hyper relevant, but the assist percentage does drop as a team when Brad Beal is off the floor, which is what I have here. So like when he's on the floor, yeah, the assist percentage is a little bit higher, but like that's not necessarily because it's going to Devin Booker, right? There's still a good amount of one-on-one ball that's being played. So I'm gonna take the under here on the assist for him just because I think it's a little bit too high, and there's a misconception that he's gonna get more of them because Brad Beal is on the floor, and I just don't think that's correct.
Yeah, maybe a misconception that the Kings are an awful defensive team that plays shootouts. They usually only play shootouts at home, right? I mean, they're 7 points better in terms of defensive rating on the road versus at home since De'Aaron Fox came back from that ankle sprain about a month ago. So I think, yeah, they can limit the Suns a little bit. And yeah, to give some credence to your best bet there, which is under 243, pretty high total for this game. Still like Fox on offense, though.
Sure.
Just because, I think they have to lean on him so much. But speaking of which, the real MVP, SGA, 35 plus in a win tonight would get you 5-1 on your money. I'd say put a quarter unit on that. Put the other 3/4 on SGA to just score 32, which is even money. And then you coming out ahead, even if the Thunder do not pull out this win. It's a tough matchup, obviously, against a red hot Clippers team. SGA, this has to be a game he circles. I know I talk about in this best bets that the Thunder pretty good chance to cover here because SGA was kind of chill, 24 points in 34 minutes against the Lakers. I mean, it's a tougher matchup for sure because the Clippers are without Zubac and therefore without much interior defense versus, going up against Anthony Davis down low last night. SGA, not bothered by the back-to-backs, 32 points per game in under 30 minutes this season with elevated usage, 38.5%, which is what his usage is in his last three against the Clippers, the team that drafted him, of course. 31 points per game, including a 42.5% usage rate versus the Clips earlier this season. Shot kind of poorly, but he tends to bounce back. I mean, he's incredibly efficient, obviously, as we know, but here's the numbers after a loss, which I found interesting. It's 32.5 points per game, has at least 30 in 9 of those 10. And then after the only 5 games, he's had a negative plus minus rating this season, which is, again, the MVP. He's averaged 33.5 points per game. So coming off a minus game against the Lakers, where he did not play particularly well, now facing a Clippers defense that's been struggling. And, you have Dort and Jalen Williams, who are probably going to have a lot more responsibilities on defense tonight than we saw Jalen kind of ramp up his offense the last couple games. So I think they're going to lean even more on SGA regardless of who's covering him, and he's going to be up for the challenge.
I'm with it. I'm wondering, should we be telling people to put a little bit on his MVP odds? I'm trying to understand that.
It's too late. I got a 20-1 a month ago. Yeah. Now, I mean, he's right behind Joker at plus 250. I mean, it's not terrible odds, but at this point, I don't know if the value's there because, I mean, Joker's Joker, but Embiid's about to fall out of this race due to games played. So, yeah, I mean, there is some value, I guess.
Luka is not playing right now. His odds might start dropping. Like Shai's in a good spot this moment in time, I think, to like hit him because of the sort of narrative of the NBA. But you gotta stay up on that stuff and obviously be monitoring who you have bets on. If you start contradicting yourself for plus money, right? You gotta start using unit control and all that. But so I understand what you're saying at the current moment in time. But if you are playing this as like a daily stock market price, his price is probably about to go up in the sense that you're gonna have to pay a little bit more to get juice on him, right? Because I do think the plus 270 you can get right now is going to drop as Luka misses a few games here and there. And like you said, Joel's going to drop out of this race before too long. And he's at plus 600 in fourth place there. I don't know. Joker's team would have to win out. I mean, they've already lost like 13 games, and that's how many they lost like a few years ago. They're not the same team, right? They're going to drop. It's too hard for him at this point. So now we're looking at like Tatum and SGA, in my opinion, because you've got 3 guys that are on the up and up.
Giannis, not Tatum.
And Giannis, but I think Boston's going to end as the 1 seed, and that's going to matter, with Dame out there. But anyway, that's another interesting conversation. We'll talk about that a little closer to the break. Let me get into my second play a prop here as we close things out. And I'm going to Nurk, staying in that on the Suns team and in that Kings game. And I'm going 12.5 points over for him. The Kings somehow are good at limiting centers points, even though Domas Old alligator arms Domas is one of the worst defensive centers down low. But still, they've been decent. I don't care about that. I care about Nurk and his minutes. I care about what they need him on the floor to do. And that's what I spoke about a little bit with Booker's assist, and also in the game where I was talking about taking the under and the total in best bets for this game with the Suns, because Nurk is going to be out there. He's going to be out there for the 30 to 32. Well, Domas is going to play like 35 if this is a close game at all. And then Nurk is not going to, he can't be out there for less than like 30 to 32. So with that in mind, like the field goal attempts should be up around when he gets to the 30-minute mark. If you look at his last 15 games, right, if every time he gets to that mark, he's going over 12 points. And so I do think that if the minutes are there for him, that the points and the field goal attempts will also be there for him. You look at the history of him playing against Domas, and that's what it is. He follows Domas's minutes. He's had a really solid career playing against Domantas when he was on the Trailblazers, and he played one game against them. So I don't really think it matters which team he's on, as long as he's a top 4 candidate of being used within the offense, which is clearly what he is here. He's the 4th option. And then as soon as one of those guys isn't on the floor, he's the 3rd option. Like I said, his minutes will have to be staggered a bit with Domas, but either way, like the centers that have had some success against Domas as of late, like, yeah, there's some numbers that might indicate that like he's done well against certain centers and limited them. But really, if you look at the players that he's gone up against in their last roughly like 10 to 15 games, everyone's scoring over their prop line, even if it's not in a lot of them are the prop line of Nurk, right? You've got Brolo going over, you've got Jalen Duren, Jonas Valanciunas, Jakob Pertl going over, and then a couple other guys. The Magic didn't have a center because Gogo wasn't able to put up more than 7 points, but you get my point. If you're a scoring center who's anywhere involved in the offense, you can get yours against this Kings team down low. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit Nurk on the 12.5 here over with a full unit.
Would you add the rebounds in too for some safety? I mean,
they're high. Isn't it 10.5 for him on the boards?
Yeah. I mean,
that scares me.
He does go single digit points, but I mean, yeah, no, I'm looking at the single digit point in the game log, and they're all against like Zubac, Anthony Davis, Bam, like the best defensive centers, right, where they're just not going to run anything through Nurkic, and teams would much rather attack Sabonis. He can get into some foul trouble. And he can kind of big brother him. I mean, he did drop 15 and 9 in 30 minutes when they played him in December, right? And then he missed the second game with a personal absence. So, yeah, no, I'm fine with just taking the points in this one.
Yeah, I hear you on. I considered all of it with Nurk. I was looking at how I wanted to play it with him, but like I said, I'm following the minutes, and so I'll just stick to the points in this one. But that is all the time that we have for you guys in the Player Props video. Continue to follow along, like and subscribe to that page. You can also check out the best bets that we have up for you guys each and every weekday. Until we see you next, happy betting.